Hello, I'm Eric Snodgrass. Thank you for watching today's Ag Forecast, brought to you by Agrible, your premier platform for real-time global insights. Well, I thought we'd start off by taking a look at the last 24 hours of precipitation here as seen by the radar. We had a couple of systems moving across the central and southern parts of the United States that were causing quite a bit of problems on Saturday and through Sunday. If we just kind of take this back from the beginning and watch it again, here's what we have to pay attention to. These first line of storms that went right in through this area, we actually had almost 100 reports of severe weather on Saturday. Some of these storms producing hail bigger than 2.5 inches in diameter. So this is some large hail. Then on Sunday, we had this system kind of sneak through the Midwest here on some pretty cool air on the back side of here, where we actually had snow through parts of Missouri, Illinois, getting down in Kentucky, all the way up into the Ohio River Valley as we got into early Monday morning. So this was the way things kind of start off and looked. And I want to bring this up to stress one point. You see, this precipitation just fell on an area that over the last month has been incredibly wet. So you know that parts of Arkansas, we're talking about over 15 inches of rain in the last 30 days. But look at this back into Tennessee, Kentucky, southern Indiana, Ohio, southern Illinois, and Missouri. You know, this is also an area that over the last month has seen better than 6 to 8 inches of rain. So as the system kind of moved through this area, we were putting down more precipitation on already saturated soils. And then this area down here just got walloped with some strong severe to severe storms, producing quite a bit of hail, some wind. So this was just kind of adding insult to injury in this part of the country. As we look to really get planting going, you know, we're already planting those fields in Texas. We start to look to plant the lower mid-Mississippi River Valley and through here, getting over into Tennessee, northern Mississippi, northern Alabama. This area, as they start to plant their corn and soybean crop, you know, we got to be watching how moist those soils are, because we won't be getting in there if it's too wet. So we'll keep a close eye on that and keep the forecast going. We'll take a look in a few minutes at what we're expecting in terms of precipitation in this area over the next 10 days or so. But do notice this, where it's been dry the last month, we're still talking about the drought that is ongoing and continuing to develop right here in parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. Okay, what we need to do is we need to kind of digest the three-dimensional flow of the atmosphere to kind of see what we're going to see in terms of temperatures and precipitation. First thing is this, that low-pressure system that you just saw going across here, the Ohio River Valley, just to the south of it, it's going to be the source of the next nor'easter going up the northeast part of the United States. So this is 4 of these suckers in a row, causing some major problems for the northeast. Quite a bit of snowfall, some very strong winds, and here it goes. You can see as I step this forward, watch that thing go right up the northeast coast. You can see how tight the pressure gradient is there, causing a lot of problems, dumping quite a bit of snow. The Midwest is going to dry out, but we're going to spend the first part of this week, Monday, Tuesday, with some colder air kind of coming initially out of the northwest here, but we're going to stay inside this broader trough feature that's going to keep things cooler than average for the beginning of this week. What we will see is that nor'easter kind of moves on off to the north and east. High pressure settles in behind it, and this is really going to be that cooler that sticks around probably till Wednesday. What we do see changing, though, is look at the jet stream here. We have a trough digging in out west, so we're talking about a lot of mountain snow at this point. Big ridge building in the center part of the country with a broader trough here over the east. So as this trough finally moves off to the east, we will start to see the rebounding of warmer temperatures. Look at this. See this big blob here of warmer than average temperatures kind of moving back in? Well, all of that is coming in underneath this broader ridge. So we're going to see temperatures by the time we get toward the end of the week really rebounding in the middle part of the country, where we could be seeing temperatures really getting quite warm in through here. Now, we will have some moisture transport on these south winds. You can see it right in through there. So maybe by Friday, getting into early Saturday morning, we will be seeing some chances for precipitation in through this area. But you can really see we got some warm air that's moving in. So this will be widely scattered showers kind of event over here. What we have to be watching, though, as we get toward the the beginning of the weekend and really into the start of next week, we still have that warm air advection in this area, which is what's going to give us the widely scattered showers and storms. But I think the bigger picture thing we have to watch is this deep trough that's going through California. So again, we're about a week out from watching this whole thing evolve, but the model's been consistent with bringing in this trough, and as it comes in, it's going to be the next big player for the middle part of the United States. You can see it as the trough ejects here about a week from when I'm making this video. We can see it kind of a 4 corners low here. Now, this will be interesting, because if we want to see anything happen to start to erase the drought that's in parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, it's going to have to be troughs coming in off the 4 corners. Unfortunately, when they do that, when we have a trough here, this is an excellent setup, perfect environment for severe weather in parts of Oklahoma and Kansas and Texas. So we're going to have to watch this carefully by the time we get into next weekend. We can see there goes the system. And if this model's got this whole thing right, we're just looking at about a week from now, another big system coming in. Let's call this early Monday morning throughout Monday and the days. So the pattern is not quieting down at this point. We did see a bit of a shift kind of in the overall position. That's going to maybe favor a trough coming through California, getting into the Four Corners, which just might give us the chance at bringing some precipitation to the very dry fields here. And again, in these 3 states we keep talking about. But this may not come until next weekend, and so we've got a lot to be watching in terms of the evolution of the pattern between now and then. So we just animate this out and kind of look at the next 10 days in aggregate here, looking at total accumulative precipitation. What we see here is that same region that's been quite wet is going to be wet again. If we watch this play, here's the system as it goes through on Monday, so this is the first round of precipitation. As we let this go on out, we get most of the way through the week without too much of a change in precip. Of course, we have the big nor'easter going up this, but the middle part of the country doesn't really see too much in terms of active weather through midweek. Just stays cool until we get toward the end of the weekend. Then we start to see the moisture building back into this part of the country, and watch as we go through Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That's where that system gets going in through here, and that's going to be the next big precipitation maker. So a lot of this precip you see on this animation here is coming in with that second big system about 7 days from now. So overall, a relatively dry week. Again, it starts off cool on the Corn Belt, and we start to work our way towards warmer temperatures by the end of the week. But do notice this, we're watching quite a bit of onshore flow in that deeper trough out west. You know, we're trying to watch out here for what I guess we'd call the March miracle to bring quite a bit of precip here to the mountains in California to really raise their snow levels back up, because they've been woefully below average. It's going to take a lot more troughs just like this one to really cure the drier conditions we've seen in California so far this winter. But again, notice this, where we have our big donut hole on the map at this point through about a week here, we still see no major precipitation events here for parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas. Please listen though, we gotta watch again for that Four Corners trough. If it comes through, yeah, it'll bring in some severe weather, but it'll also bring in precip to those very dry areas. And as I always say, you can bring in precip in March, April, and May that can erase drought that formed in the winter. So we're going to keep a close eye on it. In terms of temperatures, though, we kind of just look at the next 10 days, kind of all put together here. We're looking at the output from the ECMWF or the European model. We do see the overall flow pattern setting up just as we talked about. So a trough over out west, so that's why we have cool anomalies there. Building in a ridge throughout the week in the center part of the country, hence the rebounding warmer temperatures, and a broad trough that's going to stay here for the first several days of this week, maybe all the way through Thursday across the east, keeping things cold here after that nor'easter goes through. What I want to draw your attention to, though, is that we're going to be keeping the next 10 days cold in Montana and parts of the Dakotas. And this is an area we have to be watching now all the way through the month of April and May as well. And that's because if this area continues to stay cold, this is looking again at the last 30 days of temperature anomalies, if that area continues to stay as cold as it has and the pattern doesn't really break down, this would mean we could be moving back toward more higher numbers of prevent plant acres. Now, if we just want to know how much snow is on the ground there right now, well, here's the snow water equivalent. We're talking about in parts of the Dakotas here, maybe 2 to 4 inches of liquid equivalent precipitation. It's right now in the form of snow, but if it melted, would it cause massive flooding? No, that's not the case at this point. But we have to watch this, because if they continue to get more snow throughout the month of March and April here in the Dakotas, and the temperatures stay cooler than average, which there are some hints that might happen, this would most certainly increase prevent plant acres. So the farmers that are watching me here in this area, we got to be paying very close attention to your pattern, because right now, I'll tell you, it's looking as though there are some risks, at least through the remainder of this second, third week of March, to see the cooler than average weather hanging on there. Just so I can point this out too, parts of Montana, when you look at temperature anomalies, parts of Montana have actually been the coldest spot on Earth compared to average. So that's what's going on. We're going to have to keep watching if that cold air continues to reload and push that area. One last thing I want to point out, a month ago when I showed you maps like this, remember how warm Europe was? Well, the overall shift in the jet stream due to that big blocking high that set up over Greenland has really allowed for Europe to get really quite cold over the last 30 days now. So this has been a big shift in their weather as well. Okay, we got to talk about Argentina because we had some interesting things happen over the weekend. Let's get to the first part of this. As you watch the last 7 days, we saw some widely scattered precip coming through about 5 or 6 days ago, then very, very dry 4 or 5 days in a row. But we did have a front that tried to move through right there, look at that, and bring in some widely scattered showers and thunderstorms to this part of South America, really this part of Argentina. Remember, we're watching this area very closely throughout the month of March and April, simply because we're in the pod filling time period with soybeans. We're moving toward that harvest. And I just want to make sure that you all know what's going on right now in this part of Argentina. So I just want you to pay attention to the green bars in the background. Those bars kind of show you the climatological normals for precipitation. So we see it really reaches a peak in December, but January, February, March are 3 very wet months for the central part of Argentina, Cordoba here. After March, we tend to just really drop back off into the drier time period. So March is going to be critical. March is absolutely critical these next few weeks to know what kind of precipitation we're going to be getting in Argentina to see how well this soybean crop finishes. So again, to remind you where we grow most of our soybeans, it's in Cordoba, it's in Buenos Aires, it's in Santa Fe, it's in these areas right in through here where we get a lot of our production out of Argentina. We know that the USDA has been lowering the amounts substantially over the last 60 days. But I want to show you this in the background. We've been watching now for 2 days. The forecast by both the U.S. model, the GFS, and also the European model, the ECMWF, picking up on a bit of a wet bias here for Rio Grande do Sul, parts of Uruguay, and very far northeastern Argentina. Again, that's not where we're growing a lot of beans, but you see this. This is a pretty substantial change. We're still picking up on the drier bias in through here, but what's going on is there's a pretty good-sized cold front that's forecast to move through by the end of this week, and it may potentially bring in some precip to this area. Now, just to let you know, Uruguay has been exceptionally dry. They're at about half normal precipitation over the last 90 days. Rio Grande do Sul on the other side of their border here has not been. It's actually been quite wet in this area over the last 90 days. So just to kind of point out how regionally we're seeing these quite stark differences in total amount of precipitation. But do see this over the next 10 days, the models are picking up on a drier bias for the region where we do most of our soybeans. So this is going to be something we have to watch continually. And since now you know that March and April really start to show you the slowdown in their wet season, I just want to point out that both the long-range European model as well as the U.S. global models and as well as an analog model that we run at Agrible are picking up on a dry bias in this area through the month of April, and also up here with wetter than average conditions into this area. So this is quite important to kind of pick up on, because we're talking about a safrinha crop here of corn and cotton and other crops into this area. Right now the long range models are not necessarily picking up on major dry bias for here, but certainly for our main growing region in Argentina, there seems to be a consistent picture here of a drier bias. We'll watch it very carefully week by week to see if that pattern breaks down at any point in time to bring in some kind of life-saving rains to this area, but we're getting pretty darn far in the season to really be able to resurrect a crop. But again, we'll have to just watch it closely because, with seed technologies and the way that we're making advancements in farming, we're just going to have to keep a close eye on this because a little bit of rain can go a long way. But with that, I think I'll go ahead and wrap up this forecast video. We hope you look forward to Agrible's next ag forecast coming out on Thursday. Head to agrible.com to learn how you can get real-time agronomic and sustainability insights, all at the touch of the button. Hope to talk to you again on Thursday.